Hey guys, so this is part 2 of the ambient lighting project. I'm actually bored because we're still under lockdown and there's really nothing that I can do. So I decided to go and look for some wire. I managed to find some extra wire which I can use to do this project. So this will be the top of the dash and the center console part of the project, and the final part of it will actually be doing the seats, the ambient lighting under the seats. And let's see if we can actually pull this off. I'm not quite sure I can actually do this, but all I can do is take everything apart and see if it's possible. So what I'm going to be doing now is running my main cable from the light fitting over here. So there's a cable that comes to this whole control module over here that I need to tap into, and then I'm going to run that cable down all the way down here. And then I can actually put my EL lighting in there and run their cable through one of the holes on the side. So this is the cable I actually found, and I didn't even realize I had this, but I think I've got enough to run a main loom from the top to the bottom. The other loom that I mentioned in my previous video that I already prepared was actually for my wiring, for the actual EL lighting. I created a loom for that, but this loom here is going to be my main loom. So I'm going to just strip the red wire from the black, and I'm only going to run the red wire from the light at the top all the way down to the dash. Right, so in order to get this thing off, we just need to pull the rubber away like that, and get a little trim tool in here like that, unclip it and guide it out. I don't think the one can actually ground to this thing because I think it's made from aluminum, if I'm not mistaken. There's a little screw over here which I've often used in my old Jag to use as a ground, but I'm going to hide the wires as much as I can behind the dash and underneath here. Right, so I've got my red wire from off the black wire, and this is actually the red wire, but I see it actually has a lot of the black conduit on it as well. But for now, I'm calling this the red wire because this is going to be my positive, and that is what I'm going to run from the light, the dome light. Right, so you're probably wondering, how do I remove this whole thing over here? So it's very similar to the old XF in that it actually just clips out from this side and it slots in at the front. It doesn't like to come out. I've had this thing out once before. There we go. Right, so there you can see it just falls out when you're done, but you can see here's the two clips that you actually just slide in. They don't really clip per se, they're just guides. I'm just going to undo the main cable, and then we can put the light one side. We don't need that. So this wire over here, the blue and white one, that's the one I'm going to tap into to hook up my live. I've got to find a way to run it through here and then through here and then down the A-pillar. Right, so we need to get this A-pillar off, and all you do is you can just use your fingernails and you can get this airbag plug off. And then inside here, you're going to need to put your screwdriver in like that. There's a hole in there, which you can actually see if you look deep in the hole. You put your screwdriver in that way, and then you just twist it like that, and this thing will then pull away. And you must just pull as well with your hands gently. There is another clip over here that holds it onto the car as well. So you just need to pull it loose from there and then gently wedge it out like that. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but if you look in the hole, you can actually see the area that you're going to have to stick your screwdriver in to get to that clip. So this is where the other clip is actually sitting, close to your air vent. And what I'm going to have to do, because it doesn't want to release, is just get my trim tool in there and try and pry it loose. There we go. So now that we have them both undone, I'm just going to zoom out, and we're just going to pull up and at an angle, so because you've got your breather here for your vent as well. So there's that clip that was pretty difficult to release. I don't like these clips because they use them in the kick plate as well, and they break quite easily. They're not very good. Here is the other one that I was telling you about. So when you get your screwdriver in there, you're going to be wanting to press this forward. Now when you've done that, it's going to be pushing this thing down, so before you put it back, just pull it out a little bit so that you can put some more tension back on there. So I'm going to be running my wire behind the airbag here, and this is again, you know, like I did with the dash cam, you don't want the wire running in front of the airbag, because if the airbag should ever deploy, well, that won't be good news for you. So I'm going to try and get this wire through here. Right, let me just show you what I've done. Okay, because the light is too bad from my camera angle that I had it, I couldn't actually show you guys routing this through, but if you look in there, you can actually see the windshield through that hole. I pulled it in from this side, I pushed the wire through and it came out here. Okay, so I now have the live cable hooked up to the blue and white cable over there. It's running through there, and I pulled it out here, but now I've stuck it in here. And then, like I said, in here, if I can just get my camera to, in here, I've actually, there it comes out, and I've hooked it through and around there, and I've twined it around this other loom that Jaguar have in there, so that it stays in there and that it's not in the way of my A-pillar trim when I put my trim back, because we've got to remember the A-pillar trim has things that slot into these holes over here. Okay, so we've got to keep those clear. Here it comes down here, and then I've hooked my ground up to this screw over there, which is a T27, and now I've got my two cables over here. So your ground doesn't necessarily have to be where your live is. You can just run the ground from wherever you can find a ground, and that these are not grounds. As I said before, they are not grounds because this is aluminum, it's not grounded, but that bolt over there is actually grounded, and I tested that with my testing light already. So now I have my live and I have my ground, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a plug now on these two, and this will be the main plug that I'm going to use for running every wire that I run inside the car now. Right, so right now we don't need this to be open anymore. I can actually put this all back, right, and it's got to bend up like that. Now I can put the light, I see this light's working, that one's working, and that one's working. Okay, I'm fairly confident everything's going to work because I didn't touch anything else. Okay, that's working, the sunroof is still working, and all our lights are working, so we know everything is good. Right, so I've connected these two copper connectors onto the end of each wire, and these are the little plugs that I told you guys about that I use. So these connectors, actually, you buy these on AliExpress, you get a male and a female section. I'm going to make the vertical one my live and the horizontal one will be my ground. So this is the plug that I've actually made up here, connected to my loom, and that's what it looks like. And this is the female part to that. The ear lights will hook up to this, and any other wires that I want to hook up will hook up to this side of the plug. And the two will clip in like that, and then they're connected. So we just need to get this section in there, clipped in, line it up with the holes. Just got to make sure this one's lined up. we can put our airbag grommet back in there. Unfortunately, I cannot get the ambient lighting in here because what it does is, I have to bring it out here, and it's because there are no screws holding this thing in, just clips. It pushes this away from the side here, and you can see a huge gap here on the side. So for that reason, I'm not going to put the ambient lighting across the dash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on ambient lighting for the center console, and I'm going to put it all along here, which I've already done actually, and I'm going to take this cover off and put it over here. And in order to do that, I've got to take the aircon control unit out, and in order to take that out, I've got to take this strip off as well. So this screw over here is a T20, and I think the screws underneath here are also T20. I'll confirm that now. And I'll just put that in the door pad. To undo these screws down here, you just need to open your glove box, and these are T25s from what I can see. Yeah, these are T25s that are underneath here. So you've got a T20 over there, and you've got two T25s that you need to undo over here. So once you've got your screws undone, all you have to do is pull it away from the dash. And it pops out. Since we got that off, is we can actually just wedge this out. But before you do that, you need to get this trim panel down here off. This cover down here, just take that off, and then we can get in here to wedge this cover down here out. Right, there we go, and just release the cable at the back. So we've got the aircon control unit out, and this is what it looks like at the back. Right, so what I've done is I've actually pulled the bottom tray underneath this dash cover over here. There are three strange looking screws that hold it in. They're just plastic sort of clippy screws because they don't have anything for you to get a screwdriver in there to unscrew them. So you just have to use a trim tool like that and wedge it in there, and just pull them, and pull down actually, just pull down. Now you're probably wondering why I took this off, because you actually, in order to route your wire into the center console, I've actually pulled this away from the carpet, and I stuck the wire in there, and then I pulled it through, here. It actually came out here. I managed to get my finger in there. I clipped it into the EL wire, and my EL wire is already wedged here in my center console. You can see there is where it ends over there. So I did that earlier just to see if it was possible, and I actually ran it all along here, and so it's going to light up all this area, even underneath the armrest. What I got to do now is I got to get this thing off and put my EL wire in there. This thing, I'm so used to taking it off, I don't even need a trim tool to take it off. It just unclips like that. And you'll see that there are a bunch of grooves down here for the original factory ambient lighting. And it looks like they have little plugs or something that fit in those grooves over there. So there's some kind of controllers that they also got for their own wire. I've got both my EL wires through the center console, and they now come out over here where I need them. And what I've done is I've hooked both the EL wires up to these female connectors, which are going to connect to the plug that I'm making up. So what I've also done is I've connected two little extra plugs here, and these two plugs, I'm just planning ahead. These two plugs are going to help me when I run my wires to the ambient lighting that I want to have underneath here, and then also underneath the seats. I'm just making sure that I'm planning ahead so that I don't have to undo all the wires again to hook into my main wiring harness. So that's already then done, and I can then just hook up my cable. I've got, these are the female section of these connectors, and then I'll just hook my other longer wire, which I'm going to put on my ambient lighting for my third phase of the project. I'll hook the female section of that plug up to that wire, and they'll just clip into these. So here's the section of the plug that I'm just going to stick these into, and then I can plug it into my main harness and just test to see if the EL lighting is actually working. So now, when I actually hook these up into this plug here, I have to remember which of these plugs is the red, in other words my live, and which one is the black, my ground. So now it's time for the moment of truth and see if it works. So the only EL wire that I've hooked up right now, because I don't have this one set up yet, but I've got this one set up, so I just want to check if I turn on the headlights. And in order to do that, I've got to plug this thing back in. Otherwise I can't turn on the ignition of the car. Turn on the ignition, and we have light. So it's working, and I'm very happy with that result. Reminds me of my old XF. I don't know if you guys who have older XFs will know that you have that beautiful blue lighting all around the controls here, which is very nice. It's really, really sad that Jaguar decided not to do that with the new car. So I just want to show you guys, I've put the tape on, and just be sure that, if you're going to do this yourself, that you put the tape on the side, on the inside, or on the correct side that you're going to be lying it down on. And in order to get it around these corners here, because this stuff doesn't really like corners, I've cut a piece out so that it will turn, because if you don't cut that out, you can't get the EL lighting to do the corners. It's not going to turn these corners, because this stuff is really designed to be sitting upright like that and turning corners like this, as opposed to lying flat and then turning a corner. Right, so I've stuck it down, and it's almost imperceptible. You can't even see that it's there. I think if the dealer actually had to take this cover off for some other reason, they wouldn't even notice that the stuff's there. But you can see my cutouts there that I told you about on the corners. Just be sure to do that yourself as well. I just got to do a test and see, is the cover actually going to fit? And yes, it does. And what I did is I actually took the lighting just past this cover so that it's actually going to light up past this trim pad over here. You can't go any further than that because it actually goes down, so you're not going to see any light if you actually do take it further than where I've put it there. I won't ever have to take this kick panel off again, because when I want to get to those two wires that I've pre-run, I can actually just reach them through here and I can connect them up through there. So when I put this thing back, I'm just never going to have to take it off again. And all that's left to do is put back the final piece of the puzzle. Right, so I just want to show you guys, it's not exactly dark. If I turn the lights on, turn them off, I really, really like that effect. We've got the ambient lighting coming up underneath here. If I do that, you can actually see it shining up underneath there. I think it's looking very nice, and at night I think it's going to create a nice hue of blue light coming up the side here. It's illuminated up here as well, so driving at night I think it's going to be a real pleasure, having the lights on the doors plus having the light down here in the center console. I think just finishes it off. Unfortunately I couldn't do the top of the dash. I'm very disappointed about that. but you win some, you lose some sometimes. And but I think on the whole I'm very happy with the center console, and I'm going to extend the ambient lighting to underneath the footwells as well when I do the seats. I'm going to have lighting under the dash, and I'm going to have lighting under the seats. So when you open your door, you'll have the footwell lighting. That normally switches off when you close the door, when you start the car. But when you switch on the headlights, there will be a nice blue ambient light shining down into the footwells as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, pop them down below, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.